In 1970, English folk-psych combo Forest released their second album, The Full Circle, on Harvest, and from it, the track Midnight Hanging of a Runaway Serf. Love the interplay there between the acoustic guitar and that really circling, spiraling piano. Okay, now that's quite an earworm in the track. And let's see, we have members Adrian on Hadrian Welham, who is just credited as Adrian here, on guitar, violin, percussion, and vocals. And we have Martin Welham on lead vocals, piano, violin, whistle, and percussion. Yeah, that whistle refrain right there. That's on the owl with a haunting stare, the ghost of the the declaration of intent, the declaration of the policeman. Yeah, okay, I'm just learning now that this is a brotherly act. Well, two of them anyway. And anyway, a serf is an agricultural laborer bound under the feudal system to work on his lord's estate. Let's catch up with the lyrics here. The tangled wood, it wasn't good, it wasn't good. The shadowy priest was there, and the serfs in their colored hoods. A tawny oil with a haunting stare. The ghost of the wood. Well, it looks like there's some jargon in here that dates back to, like feudalism, like a system that died out a few centuries ago. So this is about like old English culture. Wow, now we have like another refrain and yet another earworm in the track. Yeah, similar but somewhat different from that whistle one we heard. This summer's night was warm and bright, warm and I love the kind of loose, open feel of this track, and yeah, some like open chords and kind of like a slightly desolate. It's just kind of like an airy vibe. And let's see, a tawny owl with a tawny. Funny enough, owls are what come up. One of the images that come up when you do a Google search on that word, which means of an orange brown or a yellowish brown color. Yeah. The declaration of intent, the declaration of the money spent. This summer's night was warm and bright, warm and bright. But then the prisoner there, so alone, so cold, so white. And as the flags unfolded, the jury came in sight. Kind of a very tight phrasing that is, I guess, invoking quite a bit of story in just a few words. Yeah. The people all cheered as the judge began. The hangman was waiting and the priest was at hand. And then the clouds came down and covered the moon, saw the child proceeding in the twilight state of gloom. They marched him to his... So a child is about to get executed? Wow, this is... Wow, the Midnight Hang... Yeah, this actually, the title is sinking into me now. The midnight hanging of a runaway serf. Yeah, this is kind of like just something that could have gone on in very barbaric times, like in the Middle Ages or something. The jury came the people all cheered as the judge began. The hangman was waiting and the priest was at hand. Okay, and we have a mandolin part right there, played by, let's see, non-related Derek Allenby. Yeah, credited here as Des on mandolin and whistle. And then the clouds came down and covered the moon. Another earworm. I love that move right there. Yeah, that little spike in the chordal progression. So the child proceeded in a twilight state of glow. Okay, now the track is reaching its climax, plot-wise anyway. There's been a lot of like development, different passages, and melodies included in this, thematic ideas that, despite the loose nature of the track and its recording, yeah, a lot of complexity in terms of its composition. His protests were too late. A priest said, should we wait? Okay, that is a telling line right there. Yeah. Okay. and then the... Okay, I read that. And then the clouds came down and covered the moon, saw the child proceeding in a twilight state of gloom. They marched him to his fate. All the protests were too late. Then the priest said, should we wait? Really does have some musical chops right there, able to do these little filigree lines. Although they're not really the kind of band that would show it off a whole lot, because they tend to build their songs around these kind of, a loose vibe to rather complex material. The time rolled it was hard to go. It was hard to go. The shadowy priest looked up with the serfs in their covered robes. To the tawny hour with a haunting stare, the ghost of the wood. Okay, finishing the lyrics here. The tangled wood, it wasn't good. The shadowy priest looked up, with the serfs in their colored hoods, to the tawny owl and the haunting stare, to the ghost of the wood. So we don't really know what happens. Yeah, it seems like the child is doomed. love the addition of that violin there, giving a slightly thicker arrangement as things came to its conclusion. And yeah, I guess they didn't want to give it a gloomy ending. We don't know if the boy was actually executed. We just know that he was like taken to like the where he was going to be, you know, hung. And then there was like some kind of protests and some last minute perhaps reconsideration or just pause for, do we really want to go through with this? And but then again, they were looking, but maybe that's just the ritual. The serfs, everyone was like looking up at the owl because no one wanted to actually see the execution. That's perhaps how those things carried out. Anyway, yeah, Midnight Hanging of a Runaway Serf off the album Full Circle by the band Forest. Let's hear. And I also have to say, yeah, I just love how kind of in the final third of that song, it kind of got a little bit more intense. Yeah, quite epic. Anyway, for you don't usually get like that epic feel in such a loose, quiet, open-ended, almost kind of like lackadaisical type of feel, and in this more folk-psych vein, let's say, yeah. Anyway, let's hear another track from the album. Do Not Walk in the Rain. Okay, now this definitely has kind of a music hall vibe to it, which was quite in vogue during the late 1960s into the just dawn of the 70s. Bands like the Kinks and Bonzo Dog Band and it deceived you. They're all in your hands. So you better get along while you can. Waiting around with your head in the ground will only leave you sad. So I'm gonna take you down to the station, put you on a train. So please do not. Okay, let's catch up with the lyrics. Nobody deceived you, they're all in your hands, so you better get along while you can. Waiting around with your head in the ground can only leave you sad. Okay, so this is a bit more of a contemporary message type number. Okay, I love the jaunty melody, and the kind of emphasis on twos, and the vocal melody and arcs right over it. This track seems to be lyrically about a friend. The narrator is sending his friend out of town to get away from, I guess, what has become a toxic situation for that person. That person has been ostracized or something. There's been like a controversy, maybe a scandal. This person is rather traumatized by it all, and so he's just saying, get out of town for a while and clear your head. And yeah, taking this person to a train station. So I'm sending you away from the crowd. You hear that kind of echo? I like that kind of echoey effect, and you wouldn't. So both of these songs have dealt with somewhat like intense subject matter, and you wouldn't really know it just by listening to the music or just kind of like listening to it all in passing there. That kind of mood isn't quite reflected in the music. Take up some time to straighten your mind and find some other town, 'cause I'm gonna take you down to the station and put you on a train. So please do not walk in the rain. Okay, the operative, or let's just say the active musical ingredient, you could say, is that harmonica. Or that's the most distinct element that we're hearing, but no, the active ingredient is the piano, and the harmonica gives it its distinctions. Adrian on guitar, percussion, vocals, Des on harmonica and vocals, and Martin on lead vocals, piano, and percussion. Yeah. And must say, quite a rhythmically tight number for not having any actual drums on, just like tambourine, and that piano is really giving it its drive.
Nobody receives you. Nobody would try. So I'm knocking on the cases while there's time.
It sounds like he's singing at a distance from the microphone. I like the effect. It has kind of a ghostly effect. And to my last comment, there's no bass on this either. So yeah, very rhythmically strong for not having a conventional rhythm section. I guess a lot of bands would consider a recording like this more demo-y, but that gives this its charm.
Seeing you here only fills me with fear. So somebody buy. 'Cause I'm gonna take you down to the station and put you on the train. So please do not walk in the rain. So please do not walk in the rain.
Okay, I'm wondering what the chorus line, what's so significant about that line in particular in relation to what's going on. The narrator is going to put his friend on a train to get away from things. The narrator isn't necessarily on the subject's side. The final lines are: nobody deceived you, nobody believes you, nobody receives you, nobody can see you, nobody would be you. So this person really, the subject seems to feel that he or she's a victim of what's going on. The narrator doesn't quite see it that way. The narrator is stating that, and at the same time, that the subject's story or version of events are implausible, and that people just aren't hearing it or having it. Nobody can, and then the fourth of those five lines, nobody can see you, would perhaps be is the narrator's way of consoling the subject, saying, once you're away, no one's going to see you. They can't be, pointing at you when you're not there. Nobody would be you. Nobody would want to be in your shoes right now. The person, the narrator isn't really taking the subject's side, but at the same time isn't joining in on the whole, the chorus, isn't chiming in with the whole chorus of conformity or taking part in the pitchfork waving mob. Yeah.
Nobody deceived you. Nobody believes you. Nobody receives you. Nobody can see you. Nobody would be you.
The elements to this are getting a little bit more hallucinogenic. We have like several kind of like sustained elements and little fiddly elements coming in at odd angles. that piano getting a little bit kind of dark sustained, and the harmonica improvising on one end, and that guitar just kind of like twiddling about on the other. Okay, I hope all that picked up. I should have brought this. I'm going to have to make a habit of bringing that microphone over, that speaker over here in the future, because a lot of the guitar I was hearing in my right speaker. Anyway, that was "Do Not Walk in the Rain" by Forrest, and from that, and before that, "Midnight Hanging on a Runaway Serf" from their 1972 album, "The Full Circle." Yeah, their second of two albums on Harvest. Circa 1969, 1970, yeah. One of many folk-psych bands to emerge in the UK around this time, and one of the best. This album in particular being like a real one of the best of that whole vein of music, and one of several bands that took the kind of woodsy theme. I mean, we also had a band called Trees that put out two albums around during this exact same period. Yeah, the woodsy theme, and there are maybe more if I was to like spend some time brainstorming, but not to get stammered or anything. Yeah, for more Rubies and Sapphires from the two Forest albums, see the directory of albums by English F artists linked in the description below. Like and subscribe, follow me on social media, share the video, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the two tracks we just heard, the interplay, the little musical nuances and bits. Yeah, which was your favorite sequence? And the lyrics, if you have other observations to make about them. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear-troubled trimaximalist, signing off.